7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, and welcome to the Marketing Essentials podcast. Our unique team helps small businesses grow by providing essential marketing expertise.
Hello and welcome to the Marketing Essentials podcast. My name is Bill from W. Palmentier Photography.
I'm Justin with Kerr Design.
And I'm Alicia with the Spark Social.
And together we make up
The Marketing Essentials team.
So today our resident expert, Justin Kerr, is going to be talking to us about the value of print marketing.
No pressure there, right?
No,
Is an expert?
Well, compared to the two of us, you're definitely an expert. Does that count for anything?
I suppose it's all in context, isn't it?
I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, Justin, I've seen some of your work, and there's no doubt in my mind that you're an expert in your field.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
So having said that, take it over. It's all yours, my friend.
Okay, so I wanted to talk today about the value of print marketing. Now, we talk so much about digital, and digital's great, but print is by no means dead.
No.
And actually, I believe it has even...
I don't think it ever died.
No, it's much
still alive.
It's funny how the naysayers will say, "Oh, this is dead, that's dead." It's,
Right.
It's the people that usually want it dead for some reason.
I mean, I think we were supposed to, according to Bill Gates, we were supposed to be a paperless society by now.
Well, I mean, I've been hearing
That didn't happen.
I've been hearing for probably the better part of 3 or 4 years that DSLR professional photography is dead because iPhones are taking over. Yeah, okay.
No.
Not there yet.
I think they can coexist. But
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, sorry.
But the value of print marketing is, I think one of the reasons it's valuable now is because the proliferation of digital marketing.
Yeah.
So it's really opened up the space for print marketing to shine. And I'll get to that. But at the base level, there's some things about print marketing that are valuable. One of them is haptics, and haptics is a term.
Okay, wait, I was going to say, what is
I'm going to
haptics?
explain that. Haptics is basically, the definition of that is communicating through touch. So when you pick something up, the feel of it, the touch of it, communicates something to you.
So sort of like the haptic feedback you have on your phone.
Yeah. So if you have an app on your phone that provides that haptic feedback, when you press something, it vibrates or it feels like something happened. You get that feedback. But it also relates to the touch and feel of something. If you're say you pick up someone's business card. A good example would
That's
be
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like the first thing.
We were at, I think Justin's talking about an event we were at not too long ago. That you're talking about?
Right. Well, you had come to my networking group and you'd handed out your cards, and I saw several people with your card in their hand just rubbing it because
For good luck.
luck,
yeah.
right?
Like a
Because it's got
rabbit's
a
foot.
picture of a lamp on it, and you rub it, and the genie comes out.
The reality is Justin hooked me on with this group that makes business cards called moo.com. They're local.
Very nice cards.
They make incredible cards, but what Justin's talking about is they have a feel to them. The ones I get are what they call soft touch.
Right.
And they've got a feel on them that gives you that real soft feel to it.
It's a very buttery feel.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a traditional business card would feel. Plus, they're also thicker. So you've got not only the feel of it, but you can also feel the thickness of it.
Exactly.
It's not flimsy like a normal business card.
And I've seen more than one person take your card and just rub it between their fingers. And that communicates something.
Oh, yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
There's a certain quality to that. And they're assigning value to this, whether they do it consciously or they're subconsciously. They're feeling that card and they're enjoying that experience and they're assigning value to that piece of marketing that you've just handed to them.
And let me correct me if I'm wrong. The hope is that they're assigning that same value to my business.
Exactly. There's a mental connection between the feel of that marketing piece, that business card in their fingers, and you and the service and the products that you provide.
Sure.
So there's a definite brand value to print marketing.
Funny story. Can I?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I've had these business cards now for a couple of years, and one of the great things is because of being a photographer, I'm able to put multiple photos on my business cards. So no two business cards are really alike. And I've had many people say to me, how much did it cost to get these? And usually they choke a little bit when I tell them the price.
Yeah, they're more expensive.
Because Moo's a little bit on the expensive side. But then my next response to them is, but look what it did to you when you picked up the card. What was the first thing you
Enough
did?
that they asked for the...
Exactly. So,
And that's the difference between cost and value.
absolutely, and that's what I was trying to get to is, you can't put a price on value,
Right.
the value
And
of
so
what
you
that
spend
is
a
to my
little bit
client.
more on those cards,
Oh, yeah.
but they're memorable,
Absolutely.
and you're more likely, not just with that single business card, but with all of the touches that your marketing does, whether it's your website or your Instagram. But in addition to that card, you're more likely now to stay top of mind than somebody who has a card from an online, mass printer.
The ones that do 500 for like $9.
Right.
Yeah, no, and even like I had to get temporary business cards for my business, and I was a little skeptical that they would come across cheap, and I don't want that brand perception. Like,
Sure.
I want that polished, more heavy card that just like the haptic sense of it is. It's a better card. It's a better business.
Exactly. Exactly.
So fill me in on how print marketing helps you with your branding.
Well, it's several ways. One, we just talked about the value when you produce a quality piece, somebody assigning value to that piece, and by correlation, assigning value to you, right? There's that part of it. But there's also what I call the neurological connection. So there have been several studies done, and I'll put a link in the show notes for this. Several neurological studies have been done with print marketing versus digital marketing, and the result of that is that in these studies, people had a less cognitive load in understanding what they were looking at on a print piece versus a digital piece. Now, what I mean
Okay, I
by
was gonna say-
cognitive load.
I was just going to say, you put a lot of big words in there. Bring the syllables down for somebody like me.
So when they saw a digital piece of marketing and the same information and the same message in a print piece,
Okay.
so when they see the same print piece, the print piece is easier to understand. It's easier to take in and get the understanding of it immediately, and it's more memorable, okay? One of which is that it's engaging more than one sense. So you're seeing it and you're feeling it.
So
right?
let me get this straight. The goal of good print marketing is to engage more than one sense?
That's one thing. And what they found in the studies is that the print piece had a less cognitive load, meaning it was easier to understand than the digital, okay? Now, the study gets into a lot of the finer details of that, but the fact is that the printed piece has an advantage over the digital one is because easier to understand in a quicker manner and more memorable because you're engaging now the sense of touch in addition to sight. So the more senses that you can engage, and this is why video is so hot.
Sure.
Because you're engaging both sight and sound, okay? And if you do a Facebook Live, sight, sound, and now you're interacting with it.
Interaction, yeah.
So you're really engaging three senses there.
Now, I would imagine, and maybe you can correct me on this one,
Yeah.
with print pieces, they're more also upfront. If I go watch a Facebook Live video, I shut off my phone and I'm done. I walk away from it. That's probably the last I'm going to think of it.
Right.
Now, our
Fact is, printed pieces hang around.
I was going to say, our good friend Bob Salvis, who does send out cards,
Right.
he sent us a card, and that card sat around in my living room for a while, and I saw it, and it brought me back to him.
Yeah.
Well, that's a huge. We've talked about that in the podcast before.
Right. So
but
there's a certain permanence.
there's a permanence, and that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
get at. Is as opposed to as much as I love digital because that's how I make my money, but the reality is,
And I'm not knocking digital,
No.
and we'll get to that, a little bit later. But just to finish up the neurological
sorry.
study, so less cognitive load,
Yeah.
easier to understand. Also, the print piece versus the digital had a better ability to motivate and persuade. Again, because you're assigning a value to that printed piece. Okay.
interesting.
And it's personal. You're holding it in your hand. Okay. You're interacting with it versus digital. There's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
And then the last thing was the printed pieces held the attention longer of the person looking at the material. So their ability to understand, remember, the ability to motivate and persuade the consumer, and also hold their attention longer, printed had it over digital.
That actually works in my business too. The reality of it is, have you ever? Let me give you a little scenario.
Okay.
Have you ever seen people sitting around a phone looking at a bunch of pictures?
versus a photo album.
Yeah, they're looking on it, maybe look a minute or two. But what happens if you put a photo album in the middle of a room?
You're
Yeah.
going to sit down. Someone's going to hold the photo album.
And somebody's going, oh, hey, do you remember that? Or do you remember that? Do you, you know, hey, there's Uncle Joe, you know. That's
The
a
slowly
powerful-
turning the pages. Yeah, they're really engaged with the book in front
and
of
I
them.
would argue, much to what you're talking about, Justin, people take a little bit more time with a printed piece.
They do.
It's not a case of, you know.
It's not as disposable.
You're not just going, yeah, I'm making the sliding noise so people know what I'm talking about.
Bill is swiping his finger back and forth. For
So
those
like
of
you would do on a phone.
Right.
And I've caught myself many times, especially on Instagram, just swipe, 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 and I maybe give a second or two to every image.
Right.
But you put that same photo album in front of me, it's a lot slower. So anyway, that's just my.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to pull you off.
So there's a brand value to it. There's a consumer value to it.
Sure.
Okay, and how the consumer responds to the marketing when it's printed versus digital. And then there's a marketing value to it. So because so many things are digital now, and you know, if you go on to Facebook, you just have ads screaming at you all the time. Banner ads, things on the side, things within, you know, social media.
Sure.
But they disappear very quickly.
Yeah,
They
that's
do.
fine.
They disappear very quickly.
Especially when you start getting into stories and whatnot on digital.
Right. So what that does for print is it opens up the space more for print. If you think about it, the amount of, I'll call it marketing mail that you get now versus the amount of marketing mail you got 10 years ago,
Vastly different. Vastly.
it's less, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can remember opening up my mailbox when I was younger, and
Stuff just spilling
yeah,
out. Yeah.
now it's not as prevalent.
Right.
So it's almost like print, which is considered traditional or old school, can be a disruptor.
It can, because the space it's operating now is less crowded because of digital.
Yes.
Yeah. That
So
makes
you have a
sense.
better chance, especially, and Bob Salvas talked to us about this when he was on way back, talked to us about direct mail. He said that the advantages now of print marketing is that they use some of the same technology and some of the same strategy as digital, so they can really target their
Yeah,
audiences.
you can definitely target better than you could years ago.
Exactly. So not only is print going to be more significant because you're targeting an audience, but also because the space itself is much more open. So fewer pieces coming through the mail, plus you're targeting your audience. Your chances of getting someone's attention and them interacting with your piece and assigning value, and then eventually being sent to a website or send an email or a phone call, much greater now than it used to be.
Yes, absolutely.
So, oh god,
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and I think a lot of print, I think the reason maybe people get turned off is because the same reason they get turned off about social media, they don't take the time to think about what would be a good piece, what would
Right.
connect with my core audience, what would make sense for copy and conversion. And they just kind of like, yeah, we're here and this is our address and buy from us now. And they don't put a lot of thought into the brand.
I do think that printed pieces are much more considered than digital. And actually, I should have done this before we started recording with Bill. Right behind you, I brought some printed stuff.
okay. Here's
for us
the
to
point
take
where I
a
make
look
a
at.
lot of rattling. Hold
That's
on.
okay.
Here we go. Sorry. Watch out for that.
Don't fall, Bill.
So
Assuming this is the stuff you're talking about.
yeah, so
Holy moly, that's heavy.
I wanted to bring in some pieces.
I didn't know we were having show and tell.
Oh yeah,
How
no, it's
cool
a
is
show and
that?
tell day. So I was
I love
able
show
to, not too long ago, I was able to take a tour of one of my favorite print and production facilities, Signature Printing.
Oh, nice.
The rep there just gave me a ton of samples
Nice.
to take home, but some of them are quite amazing. I mean, again, just, sort of talking about like the haptic nature of some of these printed pieces. I mean, here's one for a college.
Wow,
that-
you can feel it. I mean, the minute you touch it, it's like it doesn't feel like a normal piece of.
Right.
It's much thicker pages.
And like here's one with a die cut on
That's
it.
nice.
You know,
So Justin will visually show everybody these after the podcast.
Sure.
I think I'll be posting in the
Someone
notes.
tells me I'll have to take some photos of some of these and throw them up there for you.
Oh, this is really cool.
The quality of the paper, the finish on the paper, the photography, I mean, it all adds to the experience of a printed piece. You know, I mean,
Yeah, you can definitely tell these are well thought out.
oh, absolutely.
Even
So,
the colors, everything.
yeah, and some of these are coated, some of them are uncoated, and, you know, all of that lends to the quality of the value that you assign the piece. So like, here's a beautiful little piece for cross pens. It's a nice little coated,
Oh, it's like a glossy. Oh, nice.
yeah, catalog. But the high gloss on the paper stock,
Ooh,
Rip-
I opened up to the pen I want to get.
yeah, those are beautiful pens, aren't they? Yeah, that's a nice one.
Everybody that knows me knows that I'm a huge Captain America fan, and I
But-
just opened up to a Captain America pen. I want this.
But think about for a minute about what you're feeling on the paper and the
Oh, yeah.
material that the pens are made of and the relationship between the two.
Oh, yeah, because when you feel a pen, it's got that gloss feel to it.
Right.
And the paper has that same very feel. Here, Alicia, check this out.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you won't be able to feel these if we post them online. But
Yeah, no, but we can describe
Visually,
the
you
best
can-
we can.
But
Yeah.
like, here's a great little piece, you know. So this was put together for a manufacturing company that does all these little drill bits and things. And here's a handy little index that, you know, if you're using their materials, you can hang it in your shop as a reference piece, right?
I'm going to knock over my sheet.
Now, you might have the same information on your phone, but how often are you going to whip out your phone and
Well,
take a
plus
look
the
at it
fact that
versus,
This thing's actually got an index on it, which you couldn't do with your phone. So
right?
it's pretty cool.
So there's a lot of value to print marketing. You know, when you are strategic about it, you understand your audience, and this is no different than digital. I mean, you have to understand your audience. You have to understand who you're trying to market to, and you apply the same thing to a print piece, and you can do some really, really neat stuff.
You know what I noticed about this, and maybe you can speak to this, Justin? Now, this card here, I look at the front side of it, and I flipped it over like you normally would. You grab it from the bottom and flip
Right.
it over. As soon as I flipped it, it's right side up. Have you ever done that with when they print it the same way on both sides, and then you're reading, all of a sudden you flip it over and it's upside down?
Yeah.
This was actually thought out well enough to when I flipped it over, it was perfectly right side up. Maybe that's just a small thing to notice, but
Well, it's a small thing, but you noticed it.
I did. That's what I'm
You
saying.
know,
I
and
noticed
the
it
way
right.
they built this piece, you're more likely to turn it end over end than you are side to side.
Exactly. So somebody thought enough about that, and that was one of the first things I caught playing with it. But anyway,
Yeah, and you know, here's another
to
example.
my
Here's just
uneducated eye.
a little bookmark, right?
Yeah.
For Johnson Wales University with some of their information on the back. I've got a stack of bookmarks at home, right? Because like most people, I've got 3 or 4 books going at the same time.
That's all. Sorry.
So these little bookmarks are great for keeping your space in the book, but they're permanent marketing for this organization,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So just the practical application of, you know, print marketing, the haptic nature of it, the ability to communicate your brand is just tremendous. I mean, there's just certain things about print that you're not going to be able to do in digital.
So are you seeing, just a little question.
Go ahead, yeah.
Are you seeing an uptick in requests for print marketing versus digital marketing, or is it still a little on the slow side?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because that was the next point I wanted to make, is that
See,
I'm
ahead of things.
Yeah,
Okay, who knew?
you're ahead of the curve, man.
First time for everything.
Digital is great, and I'm extremely glad that, you know, we have the ability to market digitally. And I think the combination of print marketing and digital marketing is a very powerful combination. So we've talked before in general on this podcast about needing 7 to 9 touches with a prospective client or customer before you start to become top of mind, right? You start to stick in their head. Well, if you're only doing digital, you're kind of limited as to how you might be able to do that touch.
Yep.
You might have 2 or 3 touches through digital, but if you expand that out to print marketing, now you can double those number of touches,
If
right?
not more, yeah.
If not more. So I think the combination of the two is very, very powerful. Now, the key is to have consistent branding, because when they see a printed piece and then they see something digitally, they need to know they're looking at the same company.
So they can make the
same
connection,
organization.
otherwise
Yeah.
there's
Make
no
the
connection.
connection.
Yeah.
Very, very important. And this is where I would say working with a professional or a professional agency is important, because they will make sure that your marketing is consistent across all your channels, whether it's print, whether it's on air, whether it's billboards, whether it's digital, wherever it is, they're going to make sure that your branding is consistent.
Right.
And that's the key, because if your branding isn't consistent, you've lost all the potency of those different touches.
I think
Right. Well, I was just going to say, like, if you get something in the mail and then you see a website on there to find more information, and you go online and the website looks nothing like, you're looking back at the print ad or the direct mailer, and you're like, is this even the same company? That's really bad.
Yeah.
And then going back to the several touch points, is you want that kind of like, whether they saw something online and then they're driving down the highway and they see a billboard and it's like, oh yeah, I've seen that, because it has that consistent,
sure, look and feel. Yeah.
the brand.
Now, again, today with losing my thing. Oh, look at this, Spider-Man. I'm kidding. Sorry, he's just handed me something that was like oh wow, that is very cool.
Isn't that cool? The photography in that's terrific.
Incredible. The lighting on this fabric, magnified 100
Watch your
times.
glass. Oh, no.
And there goes my glass. No, saved it. I'm okay.
Oh.
Didn't blow anything up. So yeah, it's very cool. Let's let Alicia see this here. It's a really cool folder that he just showed me by
Polartec,
Presentation.
yeah.
Polartec.
So that actually brings up a good point. So we have in front of us different types of print material. We have folders, we have bookmarks, we have little booklets of collateral. We have like that little like one sheet with the tool on it. So how does a business decide what type of print material, what type of haptic, I guess, marketing experience they want to create for their user? Because like,
That's
if
why
I
they
was
had
like a
Justin.
plumbing company, I don't think like a bookmark would be right for me, right? But
No.
you could
Well-
do like a little tool or something like I don't know, like
What-
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I
that
think
would buy
no, it's an excellent
paper
question.
wrench.
Wait, you guys don't read in the bathroom?
Well, I'll tell you what my plumbers have always done is, they have
Magnets.
the magnets or the stickers
yeah.
that they put on your water heater or your furnace when they leave, so that next time you go to your furnace, you're just looking at their marketing.
Yeah.
Their name, their phone number, and if you're down there because something's wrong, guess who you're going to call first?
I just had my water heater replaced, and sure enough, on the water heater is a magnet with like the company logo and the name
Right.
and the phone number. Now, another thing is when print marketing is done right, and you know what your clientele is, it can be powerful.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was at a networking event not too long ago, and I bumped into a lot of real estate agents along the way, and I happen to be a big baseball fan. Well, she handed me a magnetic business card, and attached to it was the Boston Red Sox schedule for this
Oh,
year.
my real estate agent gave me that too.
So the great thing about it is now I'm seeing her face every time I go and look to see what time the game is today.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same question that you would ask, Alicia, if you're talking about social media marketing, is like, how can we provide value to the people that we're talking to? And the same thing for print. So if you're saying, well, what kind of print piece would provide the most value to the people that I'm marketing to? And maybe it is a magnet, or maybe it is, a schedule, for a local sports team with
Yeah.
your marketing on it. Maybe it's, like the piece that we saw with the card that you can set up in your shop that has all the gauges on it for a particular tool. It's like you have to know your audience, and you have to be able to say, okay, what would bring them value? Because that's what's going to make the piece useful and memorable.
Okay, so my next question is, obviously our listeners are small, medium business owners. Yeah, champagne? No, I'm kidding.
No more champagne
No
for
more
you,
champagne
Bill.
for me. They're small to medium business owners.
Yeah.
And they are dealing with so much in their life,
Yeah.
trying to get the business going, that they may not give a ton of extra thought to, is my branding on point between digital, between my print marketing, my
Right.
video marketing. So what do you say to somebody that says, hey, I got too many balls in the air, I can't think about doing that?
Stop tossing the balls and stop and go back and work with someone who can help you, because I've worked with companies where I don't do the print side of it. And all of a sudden, we'll be running a social media campaign and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're doing this print campaign in the Boston Globe. And it's like, it looks nothing like we're doing online.
Yeah,
and then
and-
I have to hustle and change up our creative to make their Facebook cover reflective of it. And then their website's not updated. And they're siloing their marketing to the point where it's like, don't even spend the money. Stop.
because
Stop.
you're being ineffective.
And I guess that
Yeah.
was where my question was coming from, is what do you say to somebody that is just jumping all over the place? What's the first, I mean, because we've seen it, we've all seen it,
Right.
you know? The
Right.
business owners, like somebody asks them, hey, you want to do a newspaper ad? Great, I'll do this.
And it kind of, it
They just
depends.
sign off on things left
yeah.
and right.
Right.
Because they don't have time to think about it.
Sure.
I think to answer part of your question, I think it depends on what stage they're in. So I work with a lot of different stage businesses, entrepreneurs, startups, businesses that are moving into the second stage of their growth and development. But if I were talking to, say, a startup, and they wanted to know, well, if there's so many things we could do, where do we start? I think the most basic component of any business has got to be the business card.
Sure,
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
When you're networking, when you're talking to people, you give them that piece, and it gives them enough information for them to contact you, whether it's through your website, your social media, your phone number, and it gives them a little bit about who you are and what you do. So that's the most basic component. Now, I might also recommend some sort of piece that they could either mail to somebody or they could leave behind. Like when you and I worked together to develop your brand,
Oh, yes, many years ago.
so we started with the website, your social media, your business card, and postcards.
Yep.
Those are the basic components. And the
I like that. I really do.
And but just to brag on you a little bit, I have talked to people about branding and things like that in the past. And let me tell you, when you sit through the process with Justin of going through your branding, it is comprehensive. He brought up things that I never even thought about when it came time to setting up my logo. Kudos to you, because you've got the experience to know, okay, this is something you may not need right this minute, but maybe 5 years down the road, you're going to need this.
Yeah.
I want to make sure it fits in with your branding now, as opposed to you having to figure out how to get it to work 5 years from now.
Right. There's a process behind it. It's not
Yeah.
just like, what color do you like and what font? We're on a roll. No, there is a process, and I'm going through it right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I like the idea of the postcards because, like, literally, my business partner and I felt kind of like we couldn't go out and network without the business cards, so we got like a temporary one. But the second thing that I think is really important is having that postcard. I want to do a thank you card, but maybe we'll keep it like a general postcard. So after you've met with someone in a networking event or somebody contacts you from online, you now have a follow-up that brings it into a different touch point.
And the interesting part about when Justin designed the postcards for me, it was through the same company, moo.com. And I had the same option, so I could pick multiple photos.
Ooh.
And now,
I like
if I've
that.
got a business to consumer, family photography type thing, I can send them one type of postcard that may be a picture of their child on it. I could do that if I wanted
Right.
to. Or I could, for my commercial clients, I may have a picture of their building from a drone view.
More of like an industrial versus
industrial.
like a retail shop versus like a restaurant. Like there's so many different,
And it fits in perfectly with my branding. Justin gave a lot of thought to the colors and the schemes for everything, and I'm thrilled with what I've got, and it works well across the board. I don't
Yeah.
see myself needing to change it anytime soon, unless Justin goes, okay, it's getting old, then move on to something else.
when the expert tells you.
Yeah, until the expert tells me otherwise. But I mean, sorry, this is not a pat Justin on the back kind of day, but it's
No,
the
but
truth.
I'm enjoying it. Thank you very much.
No, I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. You know me better than that by
Right.
now. So anyway, sorry.
So, sort of wrap this up. Print marketing has a lot of value.
Yes,
So, we talked about the haptic value. We talked about the touch and feel of it and how it can communicate things about your brand. The consumer value, just those neurological studies where people are associating certain value to print versus digital. And the fact that you can combine it with digital marketing and other forms of marketing to create this powerful combination that when it's targeted properly and your branding is consistent, you almost can't lose. You're going to come across as professional and unique, and you will be top of mind.
So first step for somebody that has not given any thought to any of the print process, would it be the business card, or is it?
First step, contact Justin Kerr.
Hi, Justin, you're
I
not going to be able to
would,
get out this door today.
I know. My head's going to be huge.
Look, they're lining up already.
Yeah.
There they are.
If you're, like I said, if you're a startup, and you have nothing right now, I think the most important thing is business card and website.
Okay.
And some sort of presence on social media. Those would be the three legs of the stool. If you've already established yourself and you're thinking, well, we should really we need some print pieces. Well, then sit down and talk with a professional like myself or one of the other wonderful marketing agencies in Rhode Island or Southeast Mass. But sit down and talk with a professional because they're the best person to guide you through this process, ask you the questions that you didn't even know you were supposed to be asking, and help you get the most for your money. Because, like anything in marketing, if you take a shotgun approach, you might hit one or two, but you're going to miss so many.
Is that worth spending the kind of money for it?
Yeah, and if you want money, a lot of budgets are very tight. And so you want to get the most for what you're spending. So it's worth sitting down with a professional and talking to them about developing a strategy for your print marketing.
Yeah.
So if you need that, you need to contact justinkerrdesigns.com.
It's
Design.com.
Design. It's not.
I got the S in there, didn't I?
know.
It's so easy to say the S.
So many people do that. I don't know why they do
Yeah,
that.
and you can find them on our website as
Right.
well.
Justin Kerr Design. I don't know what I'm
And
saying
I do,
anymore.
seriously though, one of the things that I've been offering recently, which I think would be helpful for a lot of our listeners, I do offer 90-minute design strategy consultations. What? What?
I'll tell you after.
Okay.
Something struck me as funny. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So 90-minute design consultations. So I can sit down and help you develop a strategy and a game plan and some action points that you can then take forward. So if you just need someone to kind of get you rolling and get started out of the gate, those consultation sessions are absolutely worth it.
Yeah.
So I think we're at the point in our podcast that we get to every week,
Yep.
where we say, see you next week.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us today. And as always, you can find the back episodes of our podcast on Apple Podcasts. And you can also find us on our YouTube channel. Both of them are the Marketing Essentials team.
You can find us on the web at marketingessentialsteam.com. And if you subscribe through our website, you'll receive a weekly email and letting you know when each episode has been published. Also, you'll receive a link to subscriber-only content.
You can also find us on Facebook in our private Facebook group. Just search Little Roadie Marketing Support Group. It's a great place for other marketing professionals and business owners where we can share marketing advice, challenges, and general trends. Hope to see you there.